Emotional attachment is one of the most powerful forces that govern our lives. It binds us to people, memories, and illusions that in many cases no longer serve us, or worse, they harm us. However, Carl Jung taught us that attachment is not merely an emotional bond, it is a projection of our psyche. We do not cling to people because we genuinely need them, but because they reflect unconscious aspects of ourselves. When we are unable to let go of someone who does not love us, what we are actually doing is rejecting a part of our own being. Jung discovered that the human psyche is composed of multiple facets, many of which remain in the shadow. The shadow is the repository of our repressed emotions, desires, and traumas. This shadow is precisely what makes us hold on to relationships that do not nurture us. Deep down, it is not the person themselves that keeps us bound. Rather, it is the part of ourselves that we project onto them. When we love someone who does not love us back, what we are truly doing is seeking external validation for something we have not yet found within ourselves. This is the trap of attachment. It deceives us into believing that our happiness depends on someone else, when in reality, what we seek is the integration of our own psyche. Therefore, letting go of someone who does not love us is not merely an act of detachment, it is a profound journey of self-discovery. It is not about forgetting the person or suppressing the pain, but about understanding why that connection was so significant for us. Jung stated that what we deny within ourselves appears externally as destiny. If we repeatedly find ourselves in relationships where we are not reciprocated, it is not a coincidence. It is a manifestation of something deeper, a lesson that our psyche is trying to teach us. Perhaps it stems from a childhood wound, a fear of loneliness, or a limiting belief about our own worth. Until we confront that shadow, we will continue attracting the same patterns repeatedly. This is where Jung's method for emotionally detaching from someone who does not love us becomes essential. The first step is to recognize the projection. Ask yourself, what part of myself am I seeing in this person? Maybe you are drawn to their confidence, independence, or passion for life. But instead of viewing these qualities as external, Jung invites you to integrate them within yourself. If you are attached to someone because you admire their self-assurance, perhaps it is time to cultivate your own confidence. If you cannot let go of a person because they make you feel special, ask yourself why you are unable to give that love to yourself. The second step is to confront the shadow. Jung emphasized that what we do not face within our psyche becomes our fate. If you always end up in relationships where you feel undervalued, there might be a part of you that believes you do not deserve more. Perhaps that belief originates from a childhood experience, a distant parent, or a past love that left deep wounds. But the past does not have to define you. True transformation occurs when you dare to look inward and heal those wounds instead of expecting someone else to do it for you. The third step is individuation. Carl Jung described individuation as the process of becoming your true self beyond the expectations of others. It is a profound journey of self-discovery, requiring you to release anything that is not aligned with your essence. Part of this process involves letting go of people who do not reciprocate your love, not because you are unworthy of love, but because their path is simply different from yours. Trying to force a connection where there is no reciprocity is like attempting to fit a puzzle piece where it does not belong. Individuation means understanding that some people enter our lives only for a season, serving as teachers who reveal the lessons we need to learn. True detachment is not an act of coldness or indifference. Rather, it is an act of deep understanding. You come to realize that another person is not the source of your happiness, but a mirror reflecting something within you that requires integration. True love is not about dependency, it is about freedom. Letting go is not about losing, it is about creating space for something more aligned with your true self. At this point, many people fear the emptiness that comes with detachment. However, Jung taught that emptiness is not something to fear, but a sacred space where new things can take root and flourish. When you release a relationship that does not truly belong to you, what you are actually doing is opening yourself to the possibility of something greater. But the universe cannot bring you something new if you are still clinging to the old. It is in that very emptiness where true transformation occurs. This is where you rediscover yourself, not as someone seeking completion in another, but as someone who is already whole. And then, something magical happens. When you stop seeking love outside of yourself, you begin to radiate love from within. You no longer need external validation because you recognize your own worth. You no longer hold on to one-sided relationships because you value your peace more than the exhausting struggle to be seen. And in that moment, the right people begin to arrive. People who love you for who you truly are, not for what you provide or how you fit into their narrative. Emotional detachment does not mean ceasing to love. It means learning to love without fear, without expectations, and without chains. It is the realization that love is not possession, but freedom. When you understand this, you come to see that you never truly lost anything. You only released what was never truly yours to begin with. When Jung spoke about the transformation of the psyche, he was not referring to a superficial change, but to a deep metamorphosis. Letting go is not merely about ending a relationship. It is about being reborn as a new, more conscious, stronger, and more aligned version of yourself. There are no shortcuts in this process. Emotional detachment is an internal journey that requires courage, patience, and self-compassion. But in the end, the outcome is worth it, because when you dare to release what does not belong to you, you discover something far more valuable, yourself. As you begin to let go, you realize that attachment was never truly love. It was a form of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough. Fear of losing something that was never really yours. But Jung teaches us that fear is merely an illusion, a barrier that prevents us from accessing our true potential. And when you face that fear, when you choose to look beyond it, something shifts within you. You discover that solitude is not a punishment, but an opportunity to reconnect with yourself. You realize that the absence of another does not create a void, but rather a space for something better to enter your life. The problem with attachment is that it makes us dependent on something external for a sense of completeness. And when that external source disappears, we feel as if something is missing. But Jung reminds us that nothing external can give us what we truly seek. Everything you need, peace, love, security, happiness, is already within you. And when you truly understand this, when you don't just hear it, but deeply feel it, detachment stops being an effort and becomes a natural consequence. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It does not mean erasing memories or denying what you felt. It means accepting what was, learning the lesson, and moving forward. Carl Jung once said that the unconscious speaks to us through symbols and experiences, and that every relationship in our lives is a reflection of something much deeper within us. Every person who enters our life carries a meaning, a lesson, a mirror of our inner world. If someone arrives and then leaves, it is not a mistake, nor is it a loss. It is an experience designed to teach us something fundamental about ourselves. Perhaps it revealed to you what you truly desire, or maybe it highlighted the boundaries you are no longer willing to compromise. Maybe it forced you to confront a shadow aspect of yourself, one that you had been avoiding, but that needed integration in order for you to grow. But once the lesson has been learned, there is no reason to remain shackled to the past. The problem arises when we get trapped in pain, in nostalgia, in the endless loop of, what if I had done things differently? Jung reminds us that the past cannot be altered, it can only be understood. And once you truly understand it, you liberate yourself from it. There is no greater act of self-love than releasing what no longer resonates with you. Because in doing so, you are choosing yourself. You are declaring to the universe, I deserve something that nurtures my growth, something that brings me peace, something that does not require force or struggle. But the mind will resist. It will tell you that you cannot let go, that you need that person, that without them, nothing will be the same. But ask yourself, do you feel love, or is it dependence? Because love does not hurt. Love does not make you feel less. Love does not keep you trapped in an endless cycle of waiting for something that may never come. If it causes pain, it is because there is a wound that still needs healing. And that healing will not come from external sources. It can only emerge from within. When you finally decide to let go, you begin to see life from an entirely new perspective. You start to realize that people do not enter your life randomly. They arrive as reflections of something within you. And when a relationship ends, it is not the end. It is the beginning of a new cycle. But for a new cycle to truly begin, you must be willing to close the previous one. Not with resentment, not with sorrow, but with gratitude. Gratitude for what was, for what you learned, for the growth that it allowed you to experience. Because in the end, every single person who crosses your path leaves something behind, even if it is simply a lesson in what you no longer wish to repeat. True freedom is not about having no attachments at all, but rather about loving without possession, giving without expectation, being present without dependence. It is understanding that you can share your life with someone without making them the absolute center of your existence. It is realizing that love is not a chain, it is a state of being. And when you reach this level of understanding, when you stop searching outside for what has always been within you, you discover that the person you needed the most was always yourself. There are no shortcuts to detachment, no magic formulas to release the past. It is a process of deep transformation, of facing yourself, of questioning the beliefs you have carried your entire life. But once you cross that barrier, nothing is ever the same again. You stop suffering over what has left, and instead, you start trusting in what is yet to come. You stop searching for love in others and begin cultivating it within yourself. And in that moment, without effort, without force, the right people begin to enter your life. Not because you need them, but because you are finally in a place of completeness. Detachment is not a rejection of love. It is a higher form of experiencing it. It is love without fear, without demands, without unrealistic expectations. It is loving in a way that liberates you rather than binds you. It is understanding that no one belongs to you, and you do not belong to anyone. And when you finally comprehend this truth, you realize that you never truly lost anything. You were merely preparing yourself to receive something far greater. When you begin to let go, your mind will try to cling to memories, to unfulfilled promises, to moments when everything felt perfect. This is human nature, to hold on to what is familiar, even if what is familiar brings pain. But in the end, true liberation comes when you recognize that letting go is not losing. Letting go is making space for something new, something better, something that aligns with who you are becoming. And in that space, love, in its purest and most beautiful form, will always find you. Jung explained that the unconscious does not distinguish between what benefits us and what harms us. It simply seeks to repeat patterns. If, for years, you have believed that love means sacrifice, that happiness depends on someone else, that without that person, you are not enough, then your mind will do everything possible to keep you trapped in that belief. The process of emotional detachment is not just about letting go of a person. It is about unlearning all those limiting beliefs that have governed your life. It is not the absence of that person that hurts, but the story you built in your mind about what they meant to you. Perhaps you believed they were your only chance at love. Perhaps you thought that without that relationship, happiness would be impossible, or that you would never find someone like them again. But these are just illusions, created by a mind that has not yet discovered its true freedom. Attachment is not love. It is a form of emotional dependency that stems from the belief that something external will complete us. But Jung shows us that real love is not a pursuit. It is a state of being. You cannot find outside what you have not first cultivated within yourself. That is why, instead of focusing on what you lost, ask yourself, what part of me needs to heal? Because the pain does not come from the person who left, but from the part of your psyche that you have yet to integrate. That feeling of emptiness, that anxiety, that fear of being alone. None of that has to do with the other person. It has everything to do with you. Letting go of someone who does not love you is not an act of loss. It is an act of self-love. It is telling yourself that you deserve more, that your energy is valuable, and that you do not need to beg for anyone's affection. This is not about ignoring the pain or pretending you don't care. It is about accepting it as part of the process. Jung said that the only way to transcend suffering is to go through it. And yes, at first, it hurts. It hurts because you are breaking a pattern, because your mind was used to depending on that person. But with each passing day, with every step you take in your own growth, you move closer to your true freedom. Something profound happens when you allow yourself to let go. It is as if suddenly the weight you have carried for so long begins to dissipate. Clarity arrives, answers appear, and you realize something you could not see before. Peace is not in holding on, it is in letting go. In that moment, you begin to live from your true essence, without fear, without burdens, without emotional chains tying you to the past. When you let go, you free yourself. You stop waiting for messages, analyzing every detail, wondering what you did wrong. You understand that love is not begged for, that respect is not demanded, that connection is not forced. And most importantly, you realize that the most important person in your life has always been you. This does not mean you will never love again, but the next time, you will do so from a different place. Not from need, but from wholeness. Not from fear of loss, but from the certainty that everything that comes and goes is part of your evolution. True detachment is an internal transformation. It is a journey in which you stop being who you were and become who you were always meant to be. And in that journey, every tear, every moment of solitude, every fading memory is a sign that you are moving forward. It is not an easy path, but it is the only one that will lead you to real freedom. And when you reach the other side, when you look back and see how much you have grown, you will understand that you never really lost anything. You only found yourself. When you finally managed to let go, you realize that true love was never about holding on to someone else, but about the relationship you have with yourself. You learn that you do not need anyone's validation to feel complete, that happiness is not found in another person, but in the way you connect with your own essence. And it is in that moment that everything changes. You begin to see life from a new perspective, not from lack, but from abundance, not from the fear of losing, but from the confidence that everything meant for you will arrive at the right moment. Letting go of someone who does not love us is one of the hardest things we can do, but it is also one of the most liberating. It is not just about releasing a person, it is about reclaiming ourselves. It is about understanding that the love we seek externally can only be truly fulfilled when we find it within. The journey is not easy, but it is worth it, because in the end, the most important relationship we will ever have is the one we have with ourselves. According to Jung, true healing is not about simply letting go. It is about integration. It is not about erasing memories or suppressing emotions, but rather about accepting what has been lived, embracing it with gratitude, and moving forward with a renewed consciousness. Every person who crosses your path leaves a lesson. Every relationship that ends offers an opportunity for growth. Every painful moment is a signal, an awakening from within. When you understand this, anguish transforms into peace, attachment into freedom, and suffering into wisdom. This is the great paradox of love. It is only when you no longer seek it from a place of lack that it truly comes to you in its purest form. When you stop searching for someone to complete you, when you no longer depend on a relationship to feel worthy, that is when you begin to attract genuine connections, relationships built on resonance rather than necessity. These are the bonds where love is free, not a chain, where presence is a choice, not an obligation. And yet, this kind of love, this kind of connection, can only arise when you have learned to be at peace with yourself. It happens when you have healed the wounds of the past, and when you have allowed yourself to release what no longer belongs to you. This journey is not easy, but it is the only one truly worth taking, because in the end, life is not about clinging to what causes you pain, but about flowing with what helps you grow. It is not about living trapped in the nostalgia of the past, but about opening yourself to the infinite possibilities that the future holds. It is not about waiting for someone else to choose you, but about choosing yourself, again and again, without hesitation, without fear, without guilt. If this message resonated with you, if at any moment you felt that these words were exactly what you needed to hear, I want to invite you to do something very simple, yet profoundly powerful. Share this video with someone who needs it just as much as you did. Maybe with that friend who can't seem to let go of a past relationship, who remains trapped in the pain of attachment, who still believes that their happiness depends on something external, or perhaps with someone who has yet to discover their own power, who hasn't realized the strength that already resides within them. Because when we share knowledge, when we expand these ideas, we help more people wake up, more souls find their path, and more lives undergo a true transformation. Think about it. How many people do you know who are struggling right now? How many are feeling lost, burdened by their past, unsure of how to move forward? Imagine what could happen if, with just one message, one insight, one new perspective, they could break free from that invisible chain holding them back. You have the power to be the catalyst for that change. You have the ability to light the way for someone else. Leave me a comment down below and tell me, what part of this message impacted you the most? What did you take away from this? What are you willing to do today to begin your process of detachment, of true liberation? Your words might inspire others. Your reflections could be exactly what someone else needs to read at this very moment. You never know whose life you could touch with your thoughts, with your own journey of growth and healing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I warmly invite you to do so right now. Activate the notification bell so that you don't miss any content. Because together, we are creating something bigger than ourselves, a conscious community, a gathering of souls who seek to evolve, of minds that are ready to take the next step. The world needs more people who dare to live in authenticity, who are willing to let go of what no longer serves them, who choose freedom over fear. And today, you have the chance to be one of them. So do it. Don't wait any longer. Take that first step toward your transformation. Because the change you are looking for outside of yourself has always been within you. You are not broken. You are not incomplete. You do not need to be fixed. You only need to remember who you truly are, free, whole, and capable of creating the life you deserve. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for listening, for sharing, for growing. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, true love begins when you learn to choose yourself first.